There's 280 odd people on. Firstly, thank you, and secondly, hello. It's a bit strange because I can't see any of you, and it's just a bit odd. It's like I'm chatting to myself, but it's never stopped me before. So let me introduce myself. I'm Lyndsay Mark, and I'll be your guide this evening. I've been told to go through a wee few bits of housekeeping, so let me just do that first, and then that keeps us all right. So as you know, it's been recorded there, and it'll be put on our YouTube channel in the next few days. You will be able to post comments in the chat, so just work away at that, but please don't share any links. And we will be having Q&As as well if you want, so stick those directly in the Q&A tab, and I'll try my best to answer them. There's a lot of juggling going on, so I'm trying not to miss anything, so just bear with me, and I will get to at one point the wee lulls that I can spend some time doing that. So we're here for a Badger Watch, and I've worked at Falls of Clyde for over 20 years now. And I studied badgers as part of my zoology degree. I did my dissertation on badgers down there, but I'm certainly not an expert. I think of myself as a badger enthusiast, if you like. So there's loads to learn. I'm still learning. I actually learned something today about badgers, which I'll tell you later on. And there's loads more to discover as well, which is really exciting. And I was thinking about it, and over the past few years, we're certainly made us more open to this kind of thing, this virtual experience. So I'm delighted to be doing this for the second year in such a big way. I don't think we had realised the benefits of virtual watches until the success of last year. So those people that couldn't travel so far, or with mobility issues, or that just wanted to kind of check something out before they walked all the way up, or put themselves out there like that. It really made a difference to those people. So, and I've never taken over 250 people up to a set before either. It's a novel opportunity. We normally have 12 up at a badger set. I've done about 100 badger watches in my time. So it's a strange thing to take all of you up there tonight. Anyway, we're going to have plenty of time to chat before we expect the badgers to emerge. So just sit back and relax. I'll be talking a little bit about the badgers, about their emergence, and you've got plenty of time before we expect them to come out. So don't be thinking, wish you would be quiet, I want to see the badgers. All will become clear in a minute. So first of all, happy Badger Week. For those of you who didn't realise, this is Badger Week, and I'm sure some of our partners from Scottish Badgers will be watching. And this is one of the many fascinating events that they have on, so keep a wee eye out and see what else they're doing for Badger Week in their social media and their website. Also to the players of People's Postcode Lottery, they've been supporting us with this event as well, so thank you so much too. But let me introduce you to the rest of the team, because there's no way I could do this all myself. We have 2 or 3 different other people involved. In fact, 4 to be precise. So we've got Sandy, who's our roving cameraman, and you'll not really see him. He's out on the reserve right now, and he's all ready to go. We've also got 2 rangers out there. We've got Claire and Shine, who are up making sure everything's okay, that he's keeping safe distances and all that kind of thing, and to give him a bit of company, and also just to have ears and eyes in the ground is really helpful, because you do miss things sometimes. And of course our badgers, hopefully they're not going to be too shy tonight. So as we speak, as I said, Sandy's our eyes and ears in the ground, and he had to go up a wee bit earlier tonight to make sure he didn't disturb the badgers. We're going to be live streaming right now from the badger set, and what Rory is going to do is make sure that anytime a badger comes on that screen, we will cut what I'm doing and go straight to the badgers, because I don't want you to miss anything. But before we do that, it would be a good idea just to kind of get into it and find out a little bit more about badgers, and waste a little bit of time that normally we would be walking up to the set. What else was I going to talk about? Yeah, so the only thing I always like to set expectations. Badgers are wild creatures, so of course we can't just demand them to come out or throw some food out. We like to keep it all very natural, and if they want to come out, then that's fabulous and we can watch them and enjoy that. And if they don't, unfortunately, there's not very much we can do. And we don't know what's happened on that set that day. It could be that we've actually had like cows and random sheep and things like walking over the set. So that might kind of put them off a little bit. They might be a little bit more wary because something's been on the set. Or if there's dogs being about, or if someone else has been leaving their scent on the set, they would be more wary. But Sandy's doing his best. He's on a slope, so that way, well, there's a sort of slope behind him, and that way he's kind of sheltered. He's upwind from them. As I say, he's given himself enough time to get up there with minimal disturbance. And our badgers, we did a badger watch on Saturday night with our children's watch group, which went really, really excellent. It was good fun to see them, and the kids had a ball. But the first badger didn't come out till 8:30. So that was interesting. Is it because we were putting them off and they'll come out a wee bit earlier tonight? I'm not sure. So normally between 8 and 9 o'clock is a really good time to see them. So I think whatever happens tonight, we're going to have a great time. It's always good to chat about badgers, and I'm assuming because you're here, you either care a little bit about them, care a lot like me, or are just a wee bit curious, and that's the types of people I like. So I thought first, let's maybe go over to the set and just see what's happening. Rory, can we go over to the set and see what's going on? I don't know how smooth this is going to be, we'll see. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's so green tonight. So it's taking a wee bit of time just to span across there. What somebody's asking, how many badgers are in the set? It's a very good question. So we don't know exactly because we haven't managed to see if there's any cubs yet from this set. So in theory, you would have your dominant male, your dominant female, and then you would have the cubs from last year, which there were 5, whether they've survived the winter, we've not seen yet. And then you've got your cubs from this year. So it's quite interesting to find out what's happening, and it would be good if we got some answers tonight. But as you can see, we're looking at a set, and it doesn't look like much. It's actually a wee bit rainy there tonight as well, and it's going a little bit pixelated for me, but sometimes it does that. Oh my goodness, I hope that's not rain all falling on it. The set's actually a little bit further in the distance as well, and hopefully I'll be able to show you a little video where I took some close-up views of that, so you'll get a little bit of a better view. And this camera, don't let it fool you, can zoom in when there's a badger as well, so we should be able to get quite good footage if badgers do emerge. And you're looking, it looks like the badger set is that strange beaver type lodge at the side there, but that's actually just a habitat that we've left off some dead wood. So that's nothing to do with the badgers. That was us from years ago. And the badger set is much further down in there. So the first thing I would like to do, I'm not hearing any sound or anything, Rory. I don't know if there is sound that we can have, or I'll let them look at that. I'm not sure if there's something you can do to get sound there. But what I did want to talk about when we're looking at this is just getting yourself into the watching wildlife kind of feeling. So when I'm going out into the woodlands, the first thing I do is try and kind of ground myself, try and I don't know, get some focus and more relaxed, if you like. So the first thing I will do is tune in my senses. So I will look at all the different things I can see. Oh, we're back again. Oh, I can hear some rain now. Maybe we didn't want to hear anything from the set. We can tune in our senses. We can think of all the things we can hear and all the things we can see. I think the rain's making it a little bit miserable there tonight. And that really just opens up your peripherals, opens up what you can hear, and makes it a much better experience. You become relaxed, and there's probably more likelihood that badgers are going to come out, and that you're going to see other wildlife things as well, whether it's a bird or a fox, or a wee tiny shrew ran over my foot the last time I was up there. And also this set doesn't look like very much just from this vantage point. It just looks like a little bit of we're in the trees here, but it wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for the badgers. Badgers are like real ecosystem engineers, if you like. So without them, it wouldn't be like this at all. So badgers are responsible for plant growth. Think of them when they're burrowing and they're digging as well. So that will stimulate plants to grow. We are creating various habitats for invertebrates. So the little spoil heaps, those wetter spoil heaps, are really good for insects and things like that as well. And there's also little microclimates even in their poo, but we'll get back to that as well. Even seed distribution. So badgers will pick seeds up in their fur and on their poo as well. I suppose they will distribute that. And I'm thinking more of like elderberry and stinkhorn, which you always seem to find round about a badger set, and bluebells as well. You always seem to find bluebells round about badger sets. Well, certainly the ones at Falls of Clyde anyway. So I bet you if you were actually there in person, you could really see the richness of plants and animals and the benefits there that the badgers are having. So we'll leave it just one wee minute for you just to kind of see if we can spot anything else. And then we'll come back to me and I'll have a wee look at the Q&As and see if anything's doing anything. Goodness. Something's going crazy. Adam is asking that they have lots of sets around the glen, and why do 2 of their occupants use running water to defecate? I haven't heard of that before. Does the water broadcast a boundary scent? Do you know? It might be. It might keep it wetter and smellier for longer. Certainly when you go into the woodlands in rain, and I'm sure the rangers will be feeling that just now, it's an amazing feeling because it's everything, all your senses become awakened, you can smell more. So maybe it is something to do with that. If pop in the chat, if I know we've got a lot of knowledgeable people out there, so if you've heard of why badgers might be pooing in water, let us know. That's quite interesting. Okay, let's come back to me, Rory, and I will show you a picture of a badger I wanted to show you, if I can work it out anyway. Oh, that says, right, here we go. So we've got that, and I want to screen share here my lovely badger. Work out how to do this. Bear with me. Share. And slideshow. Okay. I'm hoping you can all see that. I'm sure somebody will shout at me if you can't see that. But I'm not going to go through a great big PowerPoint or anything like that. Don't panic. I've literally got 4 slides and I'm not even showing you them all just now. I'm going to save some for later. But I did want to just show you this badger while I'm talking about it, sorry. So this is the European or Eurasian badger, and its Latin name's Meles meles. For those of you that want to know these kinds of things, I love Latin names because especially with mammals, they tend to kind of repeat. So otters, lutra, lutra. They're the ones I can always remember. Everything else I'm not very good at. And it's our native species of mammal in Scotland. It's part of the weasel family, the mustelid family. So with pine martens, stoats, weasels, otters. And it's actually native to most of Europe and Western Asia. Another questions came in actually, and it's saying, how many badgers are there in Scotland? So that's quite a good one, because it's when I was looking that up recently there was a 2018 comment that said they reckon about 20 to 25,000 badgers in Scotland, and that was Scottish Badgers that were saying that, and they're actually just about to start another a big project to find out the distribution of badgers, so that's really exciting. But they don't have predators. Badgers don't have the same predators anymore that they would have, like wolves and bears, but I don't think that's really the problem with badgers. It's the biggest threat is us, unfortunately. So they're heavily persecuted. And even if there had been predators, you know, I'm going to talk about persecution a little bit later on, so I don't want to start off right now about it. But you've got habitat destruction, fragmentation, road kills. I think Scottish Badgers were saying there was something like 1,000 road kills in a year, which is astronomical if you think about it. There's still wildlife crime like badger baiting and snaring. It's just all too common, especially in central Scotland, where we are. And now we've got climate change and everything to deal with. So there's a lot going on for our badgers. And events like this really do help us raise awareness of these secretive and elusive creatures, and I hope you'll be inspired to champion badgers and want to help them. And we can talk about ways later we want to help them, whether it's volunteering. You could even come and volunteer in our badger watches or help with some badger surveying. There's lots to get involved in. So let's look at the set just for a wee 2 seconds, if it's all right, see if anything's happening. I need to stop sharing, do I? Would that help? That's good. Oh no, he's got an umbrella. Poor Sandy. I'm not seeing anything. Let me just check. So I'm actually keeping in contact with everybody through WhatsApp, which is a bit odd. So you might think I'm being really rude if you see me looking at my phone, but it's actually just to see what's going on. Apparently the bandwidth isn't great, and that's why we're getting some pixels. And it's a bit wet, but no badgers and lots of lovely birds, and they can hear sheep baaing in the background apparently. You probably are just picking up the noise of the umbrella just now. Oh dear me, somebody's sending jokes in. I'm loving this. Know your mustelids, one is easily recognised and the otter is totally different. That's amazing. I need to remember that one. Okay, so someone's asking about entrances at this set, and we did, well, not me personally, although I was involved in it, did a big survey here, and there were something like, now I wrote it down because I always forget numbers. I think it was 49 different entrances at this set, which is astronomical, and some of them have kind of collapsed in, so, and there has been changes, and that was a while back now, so we'll need to go and have another wee survey of this site and see exactly what's happening. It's quite interesting. And we're definitely going to come to some background information on badgers, Katrina, don't worry, I'm waffling on far too much. I did want to just say about it's strange that we're here at this time. People sometimes don't understand that so much. They don't understand that why badgers wouldn't come out at night, because everybody thinks of badgers as being nocturnal, and they are nocturnal, crepuscular, I suppose, because they come out just before dusk and dawn as well. So if you think about the lighter nights coming in, and especially over summer, they still need that time to collect their food, and their favourite food's worms. I'll be talking about that too. So they'll eat 300 worms in a night, and they've got to try and find that. And in the summer, it's harder going. They're going to have to dig more, so they need to be out for longer. So they will start to stretch the time into daylight hours that they can come out. So if you, during the summer months, they're still coming out about after 8, between 8 and 8:30, even when it's August, so it's like bright sunshine almost. So it's really interesting, and this is why we start doing our badger watches at this time of year, because the cubs are starting to be a little bit more curious and roam about the set, so we won't be disturbing the cubs, and also it's brighter so we can actually see them. We're not sitting in the dark watching them. Right, okay, back to me. Let's do some little badgery information. Who was asking about that? Katrina. I think she wanted to know some more stuff about badgers. So if we can go back to me. Unless there's something that I'm meant to be looking at. No. Oh no, okay, we're okay. Right. Okay. I wanted to show you this guy here, and I was meant to, instead of chatting, I was meant to bring him over to show you. So excuse me. Oh. So this is Clyde, and he has been living at the Falls of Clyde, I don't know, for as long as I can remember. So at least 15 years or something like that. He's a bit older than you would probably find a badger out in the wild. I think they can live up to about 15 years, but not in the wild. Here it's much less than that, and I think the average is something terrible, like 3 years or something. It's just awful. So of course he's a taxidermy badger. And although it's a bit sad, if you can imagine the joy he has brought to everybody, I think there's probably been about 1,000 kids touched this badger. In fact, that's not even, there was 1,000 kids touched that over one of our projects a couple of years ago. So it'll be much more than that. So sometimes we have to give him a wee disinfect and make sure that he's all nice and clean. But imagine just the kids' faces, being able to see him up close and feel him and get an idea of the size, because you wouldn't normally get to see badgers like this. He's a wee bit scraggy, I suppose, but I had him sitting up at the window and he's gone a little bit bleached. And when you see badgers for the first time, you will you'll see they're just beautiful. They're really striking, whereas he's looking a little bit a wee bit faded, I would say. So I think he's about the size, if I was to say like a spaniel, maybe a spaniel dog, just to give you an idea of his size. And their weight can really change. So it can be right the way down at sort of 7 kilograms, right the way up to 17, just depending on what's happened. So the average is about 12 there. And that's to do with the time of year. So they'll be feeding up, getting into the autumn when all that lovely food is around, getting fattened up for the winter. And you can imagine coming out of winter, especially after having babies and all these kind of things, that their weight is going to probably plummet quite down a bit there. But the thing that you notice the most probably is their stripes here. And the badger stripes are just iconic, I suppose, is no other word for it. And I was trying to work out in my head why it would be stripy, because like it would, you would see it. It wouldn't be very camouflaged in the woodlands. And certainly if you do see them and they face you and puff themselves up and almost like the little cub that I showed you earlier in that picture, then you can see just how striking they are. But that is what it is. It's a warning. So think of stripy animals, think of a bee, think of a skunk, for instance, and they'll back that up with either a sting or a puff of smelly stuff in your face. But a badger is going to back it up with a really powerful bite. So I'll probably talk a bit about that just now, actually, because it is quite interesting. We've got, excuse me, we've got a badger skull here. I don't know if you can see it very well. I'm going to try and show you it. Now, just to get size of it there, obviously that would be inside. But there's loads of interesting parts of a badger skull that tells you a little bit about its ecology. And that helps ecologists like us work out, and conservationists work out, if the habitat's right and how we can protect them and stuff. So let's take a closer look. So the first thing I notice is this crest here. It reminds me a bit of a dinosaur or something. And that is showing you how strong an animal it is. And you can see from how well built it is as well. It's really well built at the front here with that wee wedge-shaped body. So it's got strength. And its jaw is really strong as well. It also has a fused hinge here too, which means it's not separate from the top jaw. The lower jaw is intact there. So if I was to show you, you know, I've got some random skulls here. This is a cat, just to give you an idea of the size here. Often when you find other mammals, you don't see that bottom jaw in there. So it's really distinctive if you see the crest and this jaw that it is a badger. And that is again giving it strength. So the stripes are a warning that it's got a very powerful bite. And not that it wants to come and bite us, but if you think of its predators, it's an evolutionary type way. This would have been really good to say, oh, a bite, and then an animal's going to stay away from a badger in the future because it's thinking, I'm going to get hurt by that animal. And it's not in a badger's interest to be in a fight, right enough. So nothing serious, because an animal that's injured is not going to survive. So anyway, back to this. What else can we notice from it? When I'm looking up in here, right up into its nostrils, I don't know if you can see very well into its nostrils, but it's all little layers in there, like a strange honeycomb almost. And that shows you, and the size of this cavity as well shows you that it's got a very strong sense of smell. So all those little bits and layers are where the olfactory sensors, the wee detectors all be in there. And it's got a brilliant sense of smell. It's got 800 times better than us. So it's going to be one of its strongest senses. Whereas eyes, tiny wee eye bits there, not really its strongest sense, although it can see. It's not going to be its strongest sense. It's going to use that smell. What else? Let me just double check on this WhatsApp that there's no badgers, but of course they will tell us, and they'll pop right over if they come in. What else did I want to show you? Yes, so the teeth as well. When you're looking at badger teeth, there's incisors at the front. So there's like 6 little incisors here. But they're all missing in this one. And then they've got these 2 canines, and then the sort of molars at your back, your flatter ones that are going to be able to mush up some of the worms and mush them up. But I'm sure you'll agree it's an impressive bit of kit. It is a carnivore. It's classed as a carnivore, but Professor Timothy Roper, who's got a brilliant book, he calls it an opportunistic omnivore. So it's all big words, isn't it? But an opportunistic omnivore is like, you know, it's pretty much going to eat anything. Whatever's there, it's going to eat. But its favourite food is worms. although it will have slugs and berries and roots and shoots and frogs and carrion, anything it can get hold of. What I think is really funny, let me grab this wee worm, because of that hinge, if it was digging in to get a worm, this is not a real worm, no worms were hurt in the making of this. If it's digging up to get this worm, it can't chew, so it's not got any movement this way, so it's going to have to kind of just suck it up, a bit like spaghetti, and right down, throw it back and right down its mouth there, so it's quite interesting. I think I've said everything about our skull there. Let me go back to the badger itself. Let me see if somebody asking more questions. Is there a big difference between rural and urban badgers in terms of behaviour and sets? Yeah, definitely. The urban badgers tend to live a lot closer together, and it's all to do with how much food there is and the amount of space there is to live in. So it's interesting. In terms of their size, do you know, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I know that foxes, for instance, up north are actually bigger than the ones down here. So that's interesting. That would be interesting to know if, like, they have to be a bit bigger up there because there's more, it's colder up north and all that kind of thing. That'd be interesting to know. But certainly, yeah, there definitely are differences there. What else have I got? There's something about cubs, but I'm going to go and talk about cubs later, so we'll go back to that. Yeah, so their hair, that's the next feature I wanted to talk about. And if I could describe how this feels, it's so coarse and wiry. It doesn't feel like a cat or a dog or anything. It's really, really unusual to feel it. They used to make shaving brushes out of a badger's fur. And if I show you, I've got some up close. I'm wondering if I can show you with you seeing it. It looks like that up close. And if I get you one piece, I describe it, oh my goodness, that's not showing up very well. I describe it as a bit of a magician's wand. Maybe see a bit better there. So you've got a white hair with a black band on it. And if you roll it between your fingers, it's, I don't know, like it's clunky, if that's even a word. So it sort of goes between your fingers not very easily, whereas if I was to roll my hair, it rolls because it's cylindrical. This is oval. So that's a really good test if you find a hair out in the field. This is a guard hair and they overlap. So the black and white then makes it that kind of grey colour. And of course, they've got their black legs as well there. The last thing I really wanted to talk about before we have a wee look back at what's going on is its claws. And a badger's claws are just like the extra thing it needs. It's extra tool to help it do what it does best, which is dig. So it's got its underground home, so it needs to be able to dig, and its whole body, its whole design is perfect for that. So look at the wee short stubby ears. They don't want big spaniel ears and all getting full of water if it's, all full of mud if it's underneath there. And it's got that wee wedge shape to be able to fit down holes as well. Really strong upper body and those sharp claws. Now I think I have a cool picture to show you of some claws if I can work out how to do it. If I share my screen. There. Right, so there's our little badger, and this here is, oh, it's a strange story actually. We ended up doing a giant badger jigsaw when John Derbyshire had a box. John Derbyshire used to work at Scottish Wildlife Trust when I first started, right the way back, and is a total badger expert, and he had some bones of a badger in a box, all complete, and we spent the afternoon, a group of us, all making a badger jigsaw, which is so gruesome and fascinating all at the same time. And look at those claws. But I couldn't not show you it because it's showing you the 5 toes, and in the front feet especially, those claws are really, really long. So quite often when you look at a badger's paw print, you're going to see the little claws that are registering as well. But isn't it fascinating? I'm going to stop sharing that. Isn't that fascinating? So if I show you this little badger paw print here, that is what the paw print's going to look like. So you've got 5 wee toes. It looks so much cuter, that skeleton there. 5 wee paws, little bean shapes, and little claws that might register in the front. A C sort of in between here, like a C shape if you had it that way. And a kidney pad, a kidney shaped main pad there. So if I was to compare that with a fox, for instance, you'll see that the fox has 4 toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a big space. The front 2 are quite far forward, and a tiny wee main pad. And a dog, so you really see the difference. So if it's got 5 toes, then you're thinking badger there. Right, I could talk forever about this Clyde here. Let's just have a wee look back at the set and see what's happening, will we? Oh yay, we've got birds singing. I'm just going to watch for a couple of minutes because when I talk it seems to cut the sound off. So just let's listen to those birds for a wee couple of minutes, see if we can spot anything moving. Claire, the ranger, has said that it sounds like the crows and the jackdaws are coming in to roost, which is quite interesting. Right, let's pop back to me again if you don't mind. It's all about me, sorry. Okay, I am going to, this is about the time that we'd normally be sitting at the set now and we'd be watching. But I've got a really interesting little video that I made. I wanted to, we might not even have time to show it all because I've been chatting too much, but it's 15 minutes. And what I've done is kind of take you on a walk of the reserve. So this is a walk that we would be going if we were going up to the set ourselves. We'd be looking for all these signs of badgers to know where to go, to see where they've been, to see what they've been eating. So if I can show you this video, it'll take us right the way up to the badger set. Of course, we will stop it if there's any badger activity. And I'll be back with you soon, and then we can have a wee look back at the badger set. Okay, Rory, do you want to try and do that? That seems a shame, turning those birds off to listen to me. I can already hear chiff chaffs. And there's a woodpecker drumming, so I'm excited to go our little walk and see what we can find. We're not onto the pathway yet, and I can already spot signs of badgers. Look at all these snuffle holes foraging. Well, we're definitely on the right track to the reserve. People have been visiting here for centuries to see the beauty of the Falls of Clyde and the waterfalls here, but it's only in the past 30 years or so that we've been really taking people up to see the badgers. Do you know, they say you're never too far from badgers when you're at Falls of Clyde, and already there's more foraging signs here. Look at these sniffle holes, maybe looking for some worms. Falls of Clyde's part of the Clyde Valley Woodlands National Nature Reserve. It's also been awarded a triple SI. I think it's because of these strips of ancient woodland that border the Clyde. And it's only here that you'll find certain rare fauna and flora. Whoa, you can really hear the water here. The River Clyde's the third largest in Scotland after the Tay Tweed. It's amazing to stand here and look over at New Lanark World Heritage Site. So this is Dundafel Inn here. It's only 3 metres tall, but it's very pretty. So let's take a wee look at this map. There's several well-used sets on this side of the river. I'll be taking you to a secret location though, just for the protection of the badgers. Right, just walking along here and spotted out the corner of my eye what looks like snuffle holes, but in closer inspection, take a wee walk over, loads of flies and pits with poo in them. This is classic badger. Badgers dig dung pits, and when you get a collection like this, it's called latrines. Some are sloppy, some are a little bit more well formed. It depends what they've been eating, whether it's sludgy with lots of worms or if they've had some cereals or fruits. But we can't go past without giving it a wee sniff test. So get a stick, poke around, give it a wee smell. Now you're smelling out for a TCP chemically type of smell. You'll need to do that at home, scratch and sniff. So you quite often find the latrines near fence lines or linear features or where two badger paths cross, and often where badger territories meet. Look at this perfect badger habitat. You can see where the badgers have actually gone in here under the fence to get access to those lovely fields. I always like to look for some footprints and some hair just to double check, maybe feel under the fence to see if it's been well worn. Not finding much here actually, but I'm pretty sure with a latrine being so close that it's badger. Continuing on our path, you quite often see holes at the side and you have to try and sort of work out a wee bee there. You have to try and work out what's happening. So who did it? Who's been here? Now it doesn't go very deep, that hole. And you can see that it's maybe big enough for a badger, but yeah, it's not a full set entrance. And look up here, there's been a little bit of squirrel activity, reckon that bird box there, and then you've got some feeding signs as well, squirrels. Look at that, all the pine cones have been nibbled right down. It's not always badgers, you've got to keep your eye open for other things. So walking along here, look at that well-formed path there. Badgers are real creatures of habit, so they're going to follow the same routes night after night for generations. Look at where all the vegetation's been worn, right under that fence. And if I was to go up and have a look at that log up there, I bet you it would be all smooth, maybe with some hairs on it. Wait, what's this we've got? So something's been climbing up here quite regularly. I'll take a wee look inside. Yes, definitely something been going in this hole. Quite small, right enough. Right, okay, so we've got a little rabbit poo. I think this is more rabbit than badger. So I've spotted this just off the path and it doesn't look like anything really. But if I go and have a wee look up close, it's just this mound of grass. Now, if you haven't seen a badger nest before, this is it, and it's just amazing. Look at the size of it. It's covered in moss, grass, leaves. Check to see it's badger. You're looking for those badger hairs. Classic guard hair there. Very well used. I could just imagine the adult and maybe a wee cub just having a wee sleep in their badger nest. So it's not always underground living. It can be in a nest as well. Imagine in the underground tunnels as well, and the chambers that comes to the end. I bet it would be all snuggly and soft like that inside its bedding chamber. So let's go back up here, following the path up here, see if there's any more signs of badger. And there's certainly an entrance at the top of this path. So let's take a wee look in here. Yep, a nice big spoil heap and an entrance there. Lovely. So let's keep following. Right, we've got another big path up here. And I always like to look and see what else is around. Some bluebells. Lovely. And the smell is amazing. There's going to be a little carpet of them about here soon. And can you hear in the background all those sheep? Right, back to our badger path and some primroses. The Scotch primrose are one of my absolute favourites as well. So good for pollinators. Back to badgers. Let's stick to badgers. Right, so let's follow this path a wee bit and see where it takes us. We're coming quite close to the set now, and I'm getting a bit puffed out, but we must try and be as quiet as possible. More snuffle holes. You can imagine a snout going right in there. And that's us. We've come to our secret location. Now, it's not luxury, I know, but we do have our benches here, and that is what we've found works perfectly for the past 10 years. It also means that you're not cutting off your other senses. You can see all around you, you can hear all around you, you can smell and take in the sights and sounds. So this is where we would be sitting if we were watching a badger watch. But what's interesting tonight is I am able to take you down there and have a bit of a close-up, behind the scenes, if you like, view, which is not normally what you would do in a badger watch. I can't take a big group of people down there. It's always good to look up sometimes. Right, so here we are. We're following down. I just want to show you what the set is like itself. There's the seats. So you get different types of set, and this is the main set. Generally tends to be at the centre of their territory, but it doesn't always have to be. And a main set like this is used all year round. But you do get different types of set, outliers that maybe young males or young females will go and use, or bolt holes and all these things. This is a fairly large set as well. On the last count, we counted something like 46 different holes. But you know, that was a year or so ago, so things have changed. Now look in here, you've got that, you can actually see some flies going in and out there, which is a sure sign that there's something down there. Maybe right now there's a badger under our feet having a nap. So you've got that classic shape where there's a bit of a flattened area and then the round bit, almost like a capital D on its back. And there's lots and lots of entrances now. This, you can see where they're going in and out. And it actually
doesn't mean anything about the set at all how many entrances there are. I've seen sets with 2 or 3 entrances and have 9 badgers in it. I've also seen massive, huge, what to me looks like a huge set and only have 1 wee family in it. Look at this trench being dug out by the badger. Right through the spoil heap. And have we got some? Yep, we've got some paw prints. So the footprint of a badger is really easily recognisable. There's 5 little bean-shaped toes, a kidney-shaped back pad there, and I'm actually wondering if that's a fox print right next to it with 4 toes there. I think it has been. So foxes might be coming up and having a little sniff around as well. They might even be living in here. Definitely need some trail cameras up here. Look, there's a wee poo pit there. And have you noticed how many big rocks and things have been moved about? Badgers are pretty strong, so it's easy for them to move big, huge rocks like this when they're excavating their sets. There can be 5 tons of earth in one of those mounds as well. It's amazing. What else have we got here? Right. So, a latrine spot, lots of dung pits, nice and fresh. And look at the size of that. You can see my foot in shot there. This is a telltale sign that there could be cubs down below, because the females will not want to go too far. They'll come out, they'll do their business, and they'll not go too far away. So hopefully we will have little cubs under here. Nobody's seen any yet. There's not been any confirmation. So all's looking good, right enough. We'll just be building up our knowledge really over the next few months, putting out our trail cameras, and of course our badger watches will be able to help us too. Now I popped up here to show you some more foraging grounds, and where you're going to find moles, you're probably going to find badgers because they're after the same food, worms of course. Look how perfect it is for badgers round about here. You've got all that woodland habitat for them to have their sets in, and the kind of arable land or meadow land for them to forage. I think Falls of Clyde's so good for badgers because of all these hills that we have. Makes it really easy digging. Whoa, can you see it? Roe deer running across there. Woohoo! It's not just badgers. Anyway, back to the slopes. Badgers can use them to their advantage. It's easily drained. They can use gravity to help too with their excavations. Okay, so it's not strictly badgers, but you can't come to Falls of Clyde and not take a wee look at Coralline. This is our biggest waterfall on the reserve, and in full spate it's the fastest flowing in Western Europe, would you believe? It's not got an awful lot of water coming over it just now, but you can see that real cascade effect, if you like, where hundreds of years of water gradually erodes the stone and got this natural amphitheatre. It's absolutely stunning, and every time I come it's different. Okay, the power of magic, I've stuck this in here for you to see it in full spate in winter. Isn't it superb? It's neither wonder we have a hydroelectric power station on the reserve, harnessing the power of nature. So that's us, meandering back now after searching for badgers on the reserve. If we were all out coming back from a badger watch, I'd be getting us to look for some bats over this water. The Bentons like to hunt here. It's great for midges. But back to the main attraction, and I just popped this in here just to show that sometimes, just by accident, you can spot a badger. And when I was picking up the trail cam, I spotted this little guy, totally unaware I was there, running past me at 4:30 in the afternoon. Right, back to the office, and now's a perfect time to go live to the set at Falls of Clyde. Sandy, over to you.
whilst Rory just pops that on, I hope it wasn't too jumpy for you. My stream was a little bit jumpy in that, and this will be going onto YouTube, so you will be able to watch that again if you need to. And it is lovely when it runs smoothly. I will. So we're back at the set again. I've been keeping a close eye. There's nothing yet, but remember I told you it was about half, in fact it was 8:32 the last time, so we might be lucky. I think it's really strange that I filmed that last week or a week and a half ago. Sorry for the illusion that I didn't magically beam myself across, but look how green it is. It's changed. So if you count sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the middle, 5 trees depth, that's where the first entrance hole is. And the seats are right behind us, I reckon. So, oh, it's saying my camera's off, but are we all right? Put my camera back on as well. Don't know if you want to see me as well. Okay, well, I think we'll just maybe sit here while it's in the background instead of you having to look at my face, but we'll definitely let you know if anything happens. But as we said, badgers live in these underground homes called sets, and they're passed down from generation to generation, and we find many are very old, and they have been established centuries ago. I reckon this one must be at least 30 years old, which is as far back as our records go. When I'm thinking of different habitats that badgers live in, you know, they don't always live in woodlands like this. And I've seen beach sets in dunes. I've seen sets in caves. But they do tend to choose that sort of easily diggable substrate, some good drainage if they can. But I did learn that ancient woodland is one of the best habitats for worms. I hadn't really thought that through. In my head, I was thinking fields were good for worms, but actually arable fields aren't that great for worms. There's quite a lot of pesticides and all that go in it. So if you think about it, this is really quite nice foraging ground in here for them. I was going to go back to some questions there. Someone was saying, can we have a live camera? And years ago we tried to do this. We didn't have enough Wi-Fi and tried to do it with a wire, and then it didn't work and it was a complete nightmare. But I think a little bit of funding would help us get a wee camera up there again. It would be lovely. And Ellen has said zebra stripes. And that's a really good point, because you're so right. When you see zebra, they use their stripes to kind of confuse. Quite often they'll go next to each other and confuse their prey or their predators. Sorry. So yeah, there might be an element of that. I certainly, when I'm sitting watching badgers at badger set, I definitely think I've seen badgers when it's been twigs and various different things. So there might be a bit of truth in that too, Ellen. Good thinking. Gordon wants to know about how far do they roam from their set. And I suppose it's more to do with excuse me, where they live, how much food is available. It can be like up to a mile from the main set, and sometimes not very far in winter at all. And like I said, if there's cubs around, they'll definitely not go far at all. They'll stick quite close by. Someone else has asked about cubs staying at the set, because I had mentioned that last year's cubs would still be here, and I think that's because they don't become sexually mature until 12 to 18 months. So if you can imagine, they'll stick around, and if they get sexually mature and want to go off and have their own family, that's fine, but quite often they don't, and just stay around as aunties and uncles and never really get to be the dominant male or female. What else have I got here? When someone said, could I talk more about dung pits? And I love talking about badger poo, it's like my absolute favourite, but now I'm thinking I don't know what else to say. It just really depends. What they're the only mammal really that digs a pit and does their poo in it like that, and it's just so interesting that they use them as on their boundaries. We've got, did the recent storms have much effect on the badgers? I'm sure they did. I certainly saw a few pictures of trees down right over entrances and things, but you know, badgers are adaptable, and I'm sure they would have been okay, hopefully. The problem is with climate change, if these things keep happening more and more than they would have in the past, then it's going to have a big impact on badgers. Certainly at Falls of Clyde, I don't think there was any major problems. How many kinds of badgers are there? Oh no, I don't know if I know. I know there's honey badgers. I'm not sure. I need to look that one up. Who cares when we've got our badgers? Oh, and someone was asking about the different colour variations, and I always have to write that down because it's just too hard for me to remember. So I'm going to find that for you. Here we go. So there's different colour variations. You can get cream with kind of red eyes, and that's your classic albino. So I think most people know that one. And then you get leucistic, which I can never say. It's just terrible. It always comes out wrong. And that's there's a partial loss of pigment there, so they're not just quite as defined with their stripes and things, and their eyes are black. Then you get the erythristic ones, which are the gingery ones. They're my favourite. And I was wondering what that noise was, but I think the rain started up again. Normally when you're in the woodland and you hear something like that, you're thinking there's a badger around. And you get melanistic ones, which are black as well. But in terms of how common they are, I haven't seen very many of them. But then I'm looking at it from a sort of Falls of Clyde sort of aspect. So I don't think they're terribly common at all. Somebody was asking if we'd only have one producing pair, like one dominant pair, even if it was a massive set. And that's really interesting because I've got a set really close by me, and last year, it was last year, there were 6 cubs and what appeared to be 2 females, and they all were kind of sharing the same set. It was very, very strange actually. So yeah, there's, as I say, there's still things to be learned about. There's still stuff that we don't know. So when I was talking about the badger's sense of smell, it really is their main sense, if you like. So quite a lot of signals or information, the communication can be in these dung pits and on their paths. So someone's asking, Sarah was asking, there's one dung pit in her mum's garden, which she was quite happy about, but she's also seen groups, which are called latrines, and there didn't seem to be a set in sight, but there will be something happening there. Badgers are coming, especially if it's a latrine, a group of pits. Badger will be coming and leaving their calling cards, if you like, the same as a dog would pee against a lamppost. It's going to go there and say, well, I'm pregnant, or I'm ready to mate, or whatever badgers like to say to each other through poo and pee. And I do find them really fascinating. I've got some footage to show you later on, but I'm hoping we see badgers and we see some real behaviours for ourselves. And one of the things they do is scent marking. I don't know why I'm doing a strange action with my hands, but they go down and they plop their bottom on the ground. And that's because at the base of their tail, they have a gland. And this scent gland has got like a musk in it, if you like, and that is what they're putting around. So even when farmers would come in and dig over a plough right over a path, the badgers can still smell that, so that they do tend to just keep following these same paths constantly. They're really faithful to them. Someone was asking if tunnels generally slope up from entrance to prevent water running inwards. I don't think so. Normally they have them on the slope, so it just kind of, the water would just slope and fall down the slope. But badgers do random things. You know, there's been badgers having sets practically on floodplains and in marshy lands, and I think they just adapt and they go where they have to. When there's not enough space for them to be, they go where they have to. Hazel's asking, do badgers itch themselves against trees like bears? And yeah, I think they do. I don't think they so much stand up like bare necessities and rub their backs up and down, but they certainly do give themselves a wee scratch. You'll quite often see them putting their claws up against, stretching up. That's because they've got scent glands again between their fingers, between their claws. So they'll be leaving a scent there, and you'll see sometimes scratch marks on the trees where they've been doing that. And I'm hoping to show you, somebody's asked if they're very territorial, and yeah, they can be quite territorial, and I've got a little bit of clip of them being quite aggressive towards each other. But when I'm saying aggressive, it's just like a bite in the bum. They don't seem to draw blood or anything like that, and they've got these thick hides to be able to deal with that. Kind of flabby skin a wee bit, and especially around the rump area there. But yeah, no, they can be territorial, and I think that's what all this these latrines are for, just to mark out their territory. Okay, so I've got some badger action currently, can't see anything, so let me go back. There's apparently a roe deer, but I didn't see it. Oh my goodness, put down in the chat if anybody spotted the roe deer. I did not even spot it. That's terrible. And then a badger wandered past and stopped to look before walking off. So it's not alarmed, so that's a good sign, but we're not catching it in camera too much now. The camera was swung round, but it was gone when he went there. Let's just I'll stay silent for a couple of minutes and just see if we spot anything. There's no signs yet. This is typical badger, made worse by some smudges of rain, I think. Heather's asking, are badgers protected in Scotland or are they being culled as they are in England? And it's a really good question, but we are TB free in Scotland, so there's no cull, we don't need to. We've got much better ways of dealing with the cattle, I think. Anyway, that's very political. And are they protected in Scotland? Yeah, absolutely. They've got a really good protection under the Wildlife and Countryside Act and Protection of Badgers Act. So it's a criminal offence to willfully damage badger setts, or even by accident. A lot of people carelessly do damage, and that's still an offence, which is really good. Then offence also to disturb badgers, or hurt them, or sell them, any of these things. Oh, I've been kicked off. Don't know what's happened. Just back to me. Yeah. So that was a really interesting question. Thank you. What are we on to now? Well, I don't know what we should do. I'm all kind of... Right, okay. He's coming back to me till some things get moved about a wee bit. Right. Let me see. My trail camera in West Lothian showed last week 2 badgers mating, as it's normal for this time of year. Well, I haven't really discussed that, haven't I not? So the mating with badgers is quite interesting. So straight after they've had cubs is one of the main times that they will mate. So that, oh, you can see a badger, bottom right. Did you see it? So it just went over the hill there. Whoa. Definitely looked like an adult. Oh, it's frustrating, isn't it, when you've got the trees? That's its head. I don't think it is. Oh, yeah, there's little head. Just at the back there. Got one. The strange thing is I don't want to talk. I'm trying to be all silent, which is not really going to help. Oh, these badgers are making us work hard tonight. So quite often they will hang about the set. They'll come out, they'll have a good old scratch. Sometimes they groom each other as well, which is quite interesting. That's called allo grooming. They might decide to change their bedding. So that's stuff that we saw all around the day nest there, or the nest that was outside earlier. That's the kind of stuff they'll collect and take underground. And then they might take old stuff out, leave it outside the set just to air it. Very clean animals. But we were talking about mating there, so I'll just keep chatting and I'll be quiet if I see anything. I'm looking quite intently as well. But yeah, they tend to mate right after they've given birth, and all badgers give birth around about the same time in February, which is so cool. It's a thing called delayed implantation. So the fertilized egg just kind of drifts about for a while until it's the perfect time to implant, and then it'll have the embryo developing and the baby born at the same time. So at the right time, sorry. Roe deer apparently do this as well. I didn't realise that, but very cool. And also the new thing that I learned that I hadn't even thought of either. Sometimes I need to connect things up in my brain, and that means that they can have different sires, so there can be different fathers, because if they mate just after giving birth, and then they tend to mate again in December, which is a high peak, but they can mate all year, then there could potentially be eggs in there fertilized by different males. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So these badger cubs, if there are any, which we assume there were 5 last year, and judging by all that digging around the set, you would expect it to be some cubs, but they've been underground for 10 weeks or so, and they've just started to come out in April. And when they're born, they're all like silvery for a couple of days before they get any stripes developing. Very cute. It's common for there to be like 2 or 3 cubs, but it can be up to 5, maybe 1. I think it's really sad that the mortality of cubs in the first year is like 50%. So imagine 50% of all cubs in the first year just not surviving. And even worse if we have a dry summer, which, let's face it, just keeps happening. So someone's asking, Alison's asking, what happens when we report a dead badger? So it all goes in. You would report a dead badger to Scottish Badgers. They've got a great spot that you go on their website, and you can report it on there. And I believe it goes into a database, and they'll use that to look at distribution. They'll put distributions on maps. They'll use it to find out if they know of any sets nearby, if there needs to be protection put in place, like they might, in Cumbernauld, they've got like a green bridge where badgers can go over. There's places that have signs up saying that there's badgers and things. So there's various different things that can be done if there's quite a lot of badgers getting killed. And it also means as well that, especially at this time of year, could you imagine a female, getting killed at the side of the road, and she's lactating and she can't feed her babies anymore. So it's important that we know these things, so that if there's any intervention needed and it can be done, then they can do that. So well done reporting it. Just keep doing it. Keep doing your thing. What is happening with these badgers though? I'm not sure what's going on tonight. This camera is amazing though, except when it goes all fuzzy because of the signal. I'm sure that's Falls of Clyde for you. Oh yeah, and somebody was talking about trail cameras actually there, and it is interesting. We have trail cameras up. We had 3 up, and notoriously the things keep going wrong with our ones. We've had one of the cards didn't get read, and then the batteries ran out in the other one, and one of them was quite low down, so the badger decided to snuffle all over it. I've got a wee bit of footage to show you of that, but I don't want to go away from the screen because I feel like something could happen. So it reminds me to show you my trail camera footage. So I'm not going to get into TB and badgers. Someone's asking about TB, because Scotland is TB free. That's great, and that's where we want to keep it. But Scottish Wildlife Trust don't support the cull down south, because there's so much evidence to suggest that it's not the badgers that are passing it on and causing the problem. It's the cattle movement, and also, or they can pass it on, but it's cattle movement that's more of a problem. There's lots of studies actually showed that actually culling the badgers made it worse as well. I think looking at the science and research is a really good idea, because it's really eye-opening actually. Thanks, Catherine, for sharing that. So somebody's saying, when you say they eat 300 worms in a night, would they do that in one stint, or would they make multiple trips returning to the set? I reckon they go out for the night. Most of the footage that I'm collecting back in from the badger sets, they tend to come out, they maybe come back once, but they're coming in, stomping back in at 5:30 in the morning and things like that after being out all night foraging. I think I'd said earlier, Hazel was asking about the average age of a badger, and I found a statistic that said it was the average age is 3 years old, which seems so low. So I hope it's not as low as that. They can live up to sort of 12, 15 years in captivity, but it'd be interesting to know how long they live in the wild. I reckon, Colin, that a badger would definitely love to eat a tea cake, but whether it's good for it or not, as I say, opportunistic, so they'll take what's around and what's in plentiful supply. When the elderberries are out, they'll have some of them. When there's cereals in the fields, they might even have some of that. Slugs, frogs. Somebody was asking about the difference between male and female. If we actually get to see a badger up close, that would be good. So I actually find this quite difficult, and I've been watching them for years, so don't worry about it too much, but you can look out for some things. You can look out for the male being just a bit broader, a bit of a domed head and fatter cheeks, if you like. Its tail, the male's tail is sort of longer and skinnier as well. So the male's got more of a triangular shaped tail. Sorry, the female's got a triangular shaped tail. And she doesn't look quite as chunky. And sometimes people can recognise individuals. I think with COVID, it really upset us a little bit because we couldn't manage to keep a close eye on the individuals here. So we're not even sure if it's the same dominant male and female. But it's quite good if there's something, like if they have little bits in their ear or a different colour or a scraggy old one or something, you can start to really get individuals. Now, I can't see what we're looking at here, but I'm assuming there's something. Oh, over there, what is that? Is that a deer? Oh dear, thank you. I can't even see. Did you see a fox? It did sound like a deer barking as well, didn't it? I was thinking that. I was like, is that a dog? What's happening? I'm finding it quite difficult to see. But yeah, it definitely did sound. And earlier, Claire, the ranger, said she saw a male stag. So maybe it was. Somebody's saying it's cheaper to vaccinate than kill. That's interesting, yeah. Well, I reckon we've probably got about at least 10 minutes worth of light left, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I don't know what's happening to the cameras facing the ground. Here we go. Oh yeah, someone was asking about their calls and how they vocalise. That's a really interesting question. And in some of the videos I've got to show you, you can really distinctly hear it. There's something like 16 different calls that they have. So they can purr and they can chirr and they can whicker and chitter and bark. But I would say that noise we heard was a bit too loud for a badger, but I'm wondering if I've got a little noise I can play just now for you. So you can hear it. It doesn't look like the midges are too bad anyway. When it's raining, you don't get so many midges. Yeah. Ooh. So randomly, that did actually sound a little bit like a badger. I've got I have got a little sample of some badger noises here. It's actually it's on the internet with Jeff's sample, it's called. And let me play it just now. I hope you can hear it.
Badgers are not herds.
So that's a male making that noise when it's mating. So that's sort of chittering. And this is more of the cubs playing kind of noise. Very cute. So you can go and have a wee listen to that later. So someone was asking about the badger's sense of vision, and do they have good eyesight? Are they better adapted to day and night vision, or do they see in colour and things? And I was recently looking into fox vision, and it's amazing how well adapted the foxes are at seeing in daylight and nighttime. But if you look at a fox's eye, it's much different. Its pupils able to go thin and fat when it's needed. A badger's not, it's just not got the same size of eyes, very small pupil and things. So it's just not going to be its top sense. I mean, if you were watching badgers in the woodlands, you wouldn't want to have your hands and your feet all outside your body silhouette, if you like, because that they would be alerted to seeing that movement. But I don't think if you were moving your hands so much within your body that they would be able to see that. If you are out and you have a torch and you happen to, or if you're in your car and you happen to drive past a badger and the light shines off its eyes, you get that kind of sort of glow in the dark eyes shining back at you, and that's because they've got a layer at the back of their eyes called a tapetum, and that shines the light back out. So that is most well suited for hunting to being used in the dark. So it's definitely much more of a nighttime creature, the badger, but still it's going to use its sense of smell much better. I'm not so sure about colour, actually. I know that when we go out, and in the past when we've been watching badgers, we'll use a kind of red filter on our torches, and that they can't seem to see that. Certainly the trail cameras have infrared lights that shine out, and that's how we're able to see, but the badgers themselves can't see that. So I hope that helps. Let me have a look in this WhatsApp chat, see what's happening. Yeah, Claire is saying that was a deer barking. She could see it bark. She says it's actually strangely getting a bit brighter because there's not so many rain clouds in the sky. Someone was asking about the sounds that they make and why they make these different sounds. I don't know, it's kind of a bit strange, some of the noises that they can make. Some of it sounds like a dog shaking its cheeks. I definitely don't think it was shaking its cheeks, but I know what you mean. It's that kind of noise, isn't it? Just the types of noise they make. Some of them they're really social creatures. Badgers are social mammals, so they need to be able to have a repertoire, be able to talk in different ways, tell their emotions through what they're saying. And someone else was asking a way back, what size of area does this whole set cover? You see there's 49 entrances. It actually, when we're zoomed back out like that, that is pretty much the set. So it's not huge. It doesn't go over like half a mile or anything like that. I hope that helps. I'm not very good with distances, like 50 meters or something, 100 meters. Still people sheep in the background. The chat. So there's lots of questions in there. Someone's asking, Anne is asking, daft question, but do they spend the night digging for worms or do the worms come out of the ground at night? That's not daft at all. I have got a lovely bit of footage of you seeing them digging in and getting the worms out. I don't think they do come up at night so much, but they'll not come out of the ground and wiggle about everywhere, but they will come up a little bit because the sun's out the way. I keep thinking I've seen badgers in the background there. I suppose it's a bit like slugs and snails. They tend to kind of move about more on top of the ground, don't they? But this badger's sense of smell is so good that they can smell them underneath the ground anyway. The picture's getting a bit sketchy, isn't it? This is the time we had to leave on Saturday night. It just got a bit too dark. Let me just look what the chat is saying. Yeah, just saying it's buffering a lot. I think we'll give it a couple of minutes, and I hope that's not the only badger we're going to see. If not, I've got some footage of the badgers that we got on our trail cam that I can show you. But it's not cleared up if we've got any cubs. It's very annoying. What's happening? Unless she's literally just staying down at that hole and being ultra careful. I don't know whether we should just go over. Maybe we should just go over and I'll show you some footage, just because this is looking really grainy now. And if they spot anything, I'm sure they'll come back. Quite often when he zooms in, he gets a bit of a better view. So if something comes up, I think we'll do that. Okay, Rory, so do you want to come out and we'll... Oh, well, hopefully that's not it. My goodness, but they are wild creatures. One badger and a roe deer and a bark of a roe deer, and somebody saw a fox. That was interesting. But certainly no cubs. How annoying. So let me show you. I would quite like to get this up and running. Just now. Oh, pause. Let me screen share my, oh, here's it going. Yeah, I should have had that ready before coming off. Okay, I'll screen share in a minute when I get the right bit up. Rory's texted through. Right. I want to show you some behaviours if I can actually share it, for goodness sake. Share screen. Here we go. Aha. Right, so these are some of the behaviours that I hoped to show you tonight in real life. Oh, Claire's just texted through to say there's a little robin singing above her, but we'll not come off this just now for the robin. Excuse the high whistle on this. I think it's the old camera is playing up a little bit. So this was last year, and I just wanted to show you that classic scratching that they all seem to do. Look at the size of the rocks as well, the boulders. And next, let me see what we've got. Remember I was telling you about that scent marking. So there you go, right down, and then onto each other as well. So they get a cocktail of scents that they share amongst themselves. So each family will smell the same. It's quite cool. And this was quite good for whoever was asking about the foraging. Look how they use their sharp claws in their nose to get right in about it. And those wee babies at the back, they're very cute. And that really does show you the size of them. I mean, they're practically brand new. There, my goodness. And this is them doing their bedding collection. This was last year's. They can be really busy doing that actually, and they're so noisy. Oh, there's another wee scent mark, a scratch, and a wee itch, a wee yawn. It's tiring work being a badger, I think. So this is what we were seeing on Saturday night, but with the yearlings. I think it wasn't the actual cubs, and they were still playing about. I wondered if it was the same too. Very, very cute. You can hear that whickering again. And someone was talking about being territorial. So a bit rough here. This could be a female defending a cubs, or it could be males wanting to mate. Very interesting. So that was our behaviours, and as long as we're not seeing any, let me see if there's any other badgers. No more badgers. We'll just keep going with a couple of these things before we run out of time, because there's some really lovely stuff. Right, I've got oh yeah, I have to show you this. Now the nest that we're talking about on the reserve, and I showed you one in that video. I've got some clips of a trail cam. Now it looks like the camera's up the tree, but it's actually the base of a tree. And look how agile they are climbing up there. The cutest little nest there. So we actually had student Michael McCaskill doing his masters on these nests. He did a whole kind of distribution map of the reserve, and he found that there was like 11 main sets and 84 active satellite sets as well, which is just incredible. But it's, oh, let me show you some more of these ones actually. They're just very at home, and you just never think of them being outside during the day. But it's interesting work, because does this now mean if badger sets are protected and the badgers themselves are protected, should their nest be protected? I think there's a bit of an argument to say yes. They're spending, it would be good to find out how long they're spending in the nests. And a little cub as well. Oh, all very snuggly. I reckon that's what the badgers are doing right now. Asleep underneath the ground though. Oh. And a perfect place to have a groom as well. And there's the last one in the nest, I think. Just see how they're forming that, trying to pull it over his head as if it's raining out there. I don't want it. And you know, that might just be what's put the badgers off a little bit. It's just been, it was really heavy rain at one point. Double check the badgers aren't there, popped out. Nope. Oh. All at the base of this tree has all been ran round and everything. It's just a real sort of playing post for them. So let me now, yep, maybe now I'll just show you 2022 badgers. This is the stuff that we got from our, I think it was just last week actually, to prove that there's badgers there. But as I say, we had a bit of a problem, and we only managed to get these 5 clips, these 6 clips. And as you can see, this one's way too close. So it's too close to the ground. So I reckon badgers made it a bit out of focus. So there's 1, 2, 3. So definitely 3 badgers. That's about it. That's all we know. And the perils of putting it too low to the ground are you get very inquisitive wee badgers. It doesn't look like a cub to me, but it's really hard to tell because it's so close up. I thought that was just interesting actually, that the foxes come on to the badger set quite often actually, and they'll maybe just pee on it. They don't seem to live in this set, but they can live together. Another little resident, wee moose. So it's definitely got the scent of something, and there's there's a badger on the camera. So if you're treating yourself to a badger cam, try not to put it down too low to the ground. And I quite like this last one. This was a bit further away. See all the steam coming off it there. This came in. That's early in the morning, 4:47. Lovely. The scent mark. There's those crows again. So the last thing I wanted to show you was last year's, if you haven't seen them already, because I was sharing them all year last year, was what we were seeing this day, this exact day, this time last year. And that is the size of the cubs, if they've got any, and look how sweet they are. And that's like the same set. You can see where there's sort of collapsed holes there as well. Very sweet. I've got 4 more wee ones to show you, but look. 5 little cubs. Out very early, 8:15 that is, all rooting about. Let's try a few others, will we? So I think Mum was getting a bit grumpy there. So would you if you had 5 wee terriers. What have I done here? I'm not sharing that, am I? Let me get rid of that. Right. There we go. Can everybody still see that? I love this little one as if it's playing with a little bone or something. I've got 3 more. This is quite calm, this one. Very sweet. But I mean, that's the 11th of May and 5:30 in the afternoon. So maybe she's had them out for a wee play already, taking them underneath, but very unusual. They're very echo. And the last one, what have we got here? Oh, grumpy mum again. So that was that. Some great footage of the badgers to show you. Not such great live action, but as I said, that's badgers for you. They tend to just do their own thing. At least we saw a badger. I'm glad we saw one to prove that they're actually there. And they didn't seem too alarmed or anything. They were just taking their time. The chat on WhatsApp is just, they're all chillax listening to all the birds. They're having a lovely time, and the deer barking and things. But they're saying, yeah, they've probably all got cell phones and calling each other saying, we'll meet at 9:30 when everybody leaves us. So sorry about that, but I hope you had fun anyway. Let me see what else is going on. We've got just a couple of minutes, see if there's anything. No badger cooperation, indeed, Rose. And everybody's saying such lovely things. Thank you very much. And what do I have to say before we go? Oh yeah, there was a few things I was just going to close up with. So obviously coming a badger watch, hopefully it'll be a bit better. You can keep actually a wee ear to our social media, and we'll let you know. We'll be sharing what we see and what's happening and how our badger watches are going, because there's absolutely no point of us running badger watches if badgers aren't there, and generally they are there, so we'll keep you in the know. We even do luxury ones where you can get driven up to the set and have a wee blanket, and it's all very nice. You can support the work of Scottish Wildlife Trust. You might want to become a member, or they do these cool Adopt a Badger packs as well, which are brilliant gifts. You could volunteer, like we talked about before, and if you want to volunteer, then get in touch. There's all our stuff's on the website, so it's a one-stop shop for everything that you need. And lastly, just thank you to everyone. Thank you to Sandy and Rory behind the scenes, and the rangers in the woods, Claire and Shine, and also to the players of Postcode Lottery who have been supporting this event as well. And to all you guys for spending such a long time with me and bearing with me right to the end. I hope it was entertaining and you learned some stuff and that you're inspired to go out and look for badgers yourself. Maybe get yourself a wee trail camera, and at the very least chat about badgers and inspire others to care as well. So I think that's it. If we're all done, I'll just one last check just in case. No, there's no badgers, and it's dark there now, so absolutely not. But thank you very much, and we'll see you again for the next time. Goodbye.